If there's one skill that I'd highly recommend everybody learns, it would be the skill of unlearning what you already know. Shocker, I know. From the moment we are born, we are shaped by our surroundings and influenced by societal norms and expectations. Our upbringing, education, and interactions with others imprint certain beliefs and behaviors upon us, often unconsciously. It's kind of inevitable if you think about it. No matter how special you think you are, how unique you think you are, to a larger extent, you are a product of your society. And not all things that we learn from our experiences being a part of the society we're in serve us in the best way possible or help us live our lives to the fullest. Some societies are downright toxic, and as a result, we pick up these toxic thoughts and patterns and behaviors, and we rarely ever pay attention to these traits within us unless somebody who's aware of it points it out because it's so ingrained. This is why learning to unlearn childhood and social conditioning is so important, because if you don't, you're doomed to a life of the NPC, a non-playable character. For those who don't know, NPCs are what we refer to as these characters that exist in video games for the player to interact with. Most of the time, the NPCs have no real motive behind their existence. They're just kind of there like fodder. They might be the regular people just going about their day, maybe being a shopkeeper, serving ale, selling weapons and armor, etc. These NPCs have no names, don't have their own storylines or goals. They've been put there solely for the player character, the protagonist, to interact with, and maybe even sometimes further the player character's story. I know this whole real life NPC thing started as a joke and then turned into a meme, but if you think about it, a lot of people just live their life as NPCs, just waiting there, existing in a reactive state. They have no plans for their future, no aspirations, or any desire to change for the better. Instead of taking action, they're just waiting there, waiting for something to happen so that they can react to it. I know this might come off as dehumanizing or tone deaf to some people, but I promise that that's not my intention. I've gone through phases in my life where I existed as an NPC either through my own doing or due to circumstances beyond my control. And if you're starting to think that you fit the description somehow, let me tell you that you're not alone. Existing as an NPC is the default state in which we are raised by our society, by our families, because that's the only thing they know and understand. Study hard in school, get good grades, get a job, get a girlfriend, get married, have kids, be a good provider, buy a big house, a nice car, wear the right clothes, ask the right questions, think the right thoughts. Basically, be a regular fucking human being till the age of 60. Only then you'll have earned the right to live your life the way you always wanted. That's the trajectory that's set for most people. And they do follow it willingly, without even recognizing it. By the time most people reach their late 20s or early 30s, the metamorphosis gets completed and they turn into full-blown NPCs, where they're too afraid to take that big step that they know will only help because of the fear of what others might think, afraid to learn a new skill, pursue a slightly different career path, or even read a new book with content that doesn't already conform with their preconceived notions. They choose a career path based on one criteria, something that will let them earn the most amount of money possible so that they can just buy things for the sake of it. And then in their 40s, when they're suddenly hit by this midlife crisis, that they realize that this isn't what they wanted. But then again, they think that it's too late to change trajectories because they have a family to support now and various loans to pay off. So they keep on keeping on, despite feeling miserable for the rest of their life. Once in a while, stopping to wonder what went wrong because they have no clue about themselves and the societal programming that has been imposed on them. So why is unlearning so important? The reason the process of unlearning is so important is because it enables us to live life on our own terms, liberated from the societal pressures and expectations. It empowers us to question the status quo, challenge outdated beliefs, and forge our own paths. Unlearning encourages us to seek truth and meaning rather than blindly accepting what has been handed down to us. When I'm thinking of all of this scene from a movie called Wild comes to mind, where the film's protagonist, played by Reese Witherspoon, decides to go on a 1100-mile long hike along, I think, the Pacific Crest Trail to battle her own personal demons. And in the way, at one point, she realizes that she's carrying way too much stuff for her own good. What happens after is that even though she needs the gear to survive in the wild, she finds herself that she's unable to make progress unless she unburdens herself of all the necessary stuff that's weighing her down. And at one point, she realizes that even the pages of a book was adding to the load that she was carrying. So she does what any rational person would do. She starts burning the pages that she's already read. Okay, maybe not the most rational thing, but you get my point. Unlearning shit that you've learned is like the same thing. Once you realize which beliefs, thoughts, and behaviors are weighing you down, you have to make a conscious effort into reprogramming your mind to see the world in a new and a better way. For me personally, this process started when I was, I think, 24 years old and went on my first trip with my friends. Too late. I know. But the funny thing is, it wasn't one grand realization that put me on this path. I simply asked myself, if I wanted to travel more, what do I need to do to make that happen? And the answer was crystal clear. I need more money, more free time, good health, and of course, my friends to go along with. So I got started on my journey of unbecoming an NPC. I quit my job, the only job that I ever had, and took up freelance writing. I made sure I don't spend all my time playing video games and invested more into learning new skills and upgrading my existing ones. And I slowly but surely started developing better habits so that I could be more disciplined. As a result, I started going to the gym even more often, ate healthier, and avoided late night gaming sessions with my friends. I did all that just so I could have the money and time necessary to travel more often. And I did manage to do that. In the last 6 years or so, I've traveled more than many people managed to do in their entire life. And my freelance career, on the other hand, turned into a full-fledged business. And it happened because I surround myself with people who are always willing to help and support me. Yes, there were hardships and many failures along the way, but nothing that put me away from the path I was already on. All of that happened because I got to know myself and had a plan for my life. All of that happened because I unlearned my social and childhood conditioning and learned that I don't need a stable income to sustain myself. I don't need to force myself into a job that I'm not interested in for so-called future security. I don't need lots of money to lead a happy, fulfilling life. I don't need the validation and approval of others to live the life that makes me happy. All I need is a purpose, a reason to get up and get to work in the morning. And with that, I need to make enough money to do the things I enjoy more often. Everything else will fall into place. So, by now you might be thinking, what's the answer here? How do I not become an NPC or stop living like one? Well, the answer is rather simple because you only need to do two things. First, you need to know yourself. And second, you'll need to have a plan for your life. Because without a plan for your life, I can almost guarantee that someone else will make you a part of theirs. And if there's another thing I've learned just by purely living all these years, it's that all the struggles and hardships that come with executing my own plan is better than a life of quiet comfort being part of someone else's. Another way to say this is that it's better to be a hero in your own world, despite all the struggles and hardships and challenges, than be an NPC in someone else's world. Having a plan means working on yourself, having discipline, working on projects you're actually interested in, exercising your creative faculties to come up with new and innovative solutions, and then reaping the rewards of those innovative solutions by offering it as a product or a service to those in need. For me, it's always been about freedom first and money second, because in my opinion, the freedom to be yourself is the biggest gift you can give yourself. Not fancy cars, a big house, and other such exotic shit. I'm talking about pure freedom here. The ability to do what you want the most, when you want it, with whom you want it, and for as long as you want to. When you can use your money to free up more of your time, you can then spend that time pursuing the things that you love. For me, that's the biggest reward possible for not being an NPC. Okay, so how do you take back control of your life? How do you go from just existing to fully living? Well, it's not exactly easy, but I do have some advice for you anyway. Number one, do the hard stuff. That means buckling up and doing something that you always wanted to do but never could because fear was holding you back. By that, I don't mean going bungee jumping or skydiving. I mean choosing an alternate career path instead of the safer one, or learning a skill that you know will help you greatly in the future. But you always put it off as too much work because the thought of even getting started looked intimidating. Most people who live life as NPCs always, and I mean always, take the path of least resistance. They choose to just get by, doing just about enough to be able to afford food and shelter, not realizing that there's joy in pursuing goals that seem insurmountable at first. Don't be like those people. Always remember that you're doing this for yourself, not for other people. Develop a mindset that's focused towards mastering the bigger things. A good attitude towards learning, communication, how to be a better listener, how to inspire self-motivation. Knowing yourself. Work is already there to make you money. You don't need to add another thing in your life just for the sake of more money. So just start. Instead of overthinking things and seeing your destination as this impossible goal, just start and take it one day at a time. People far too often get focused on the bigger picture and freak out. A mountain always looks massive and its summit impossible to climb from a distance. Yet people do reach the summit every day, and they do it by taking it one step at a time. Remember that the path appears once you get on the trail and start walking. Number 2, embrace the suck and don't settle for good enough. Most people who are NPCs have sort of made peace with the idea that this is as far as they go. Since they don't really want to excel at anything, their lives are comfortable. It might not be the best life, but it's good enough for them. That's because they haven't found anything that's worth doing. They haven't put in the work to discover their passion or their purpose. For you to become more than good enough, you need to start by taking control of your thoughts. When doubt and disappointment linger, shifting your perspective about yourself can change the course of your life. When you start learning a new skill, you're going to suck at it. And at that time, it's normal to struggle and feel like quitting. But if you can control your thoughts and see the suck as something that you'll eventually overcome, you can push through your frustration and disappointment, even if you feel like that you're not doing really well now. Consistent practice will only make you better, not worse. By putting in the effort and maintaining a positive mindset, you can overcome these challenges that arise out of being frustrated, especially when you've already done the inner work and found something meaningful to pursue. Remember, practice doesn't make you worse, it only makes you better. Number 3, develop an appetite for taking risks. Nurturing an appetite for taking risks will absolutely change your life for the better. Taking risks, especially in your 20s, is so important because it sets the foundation for personal growth and future success. Because that's the period in your life where you have the most energy and enthusiasm to explore new possibilities and push your boundaries, and fewer responsibilities that could potentially get in your way and hold you back. Taking risks allows you to break free from your comfort zone and embrace new experiences. It opens doors to opportunities that you might have missed otherwise. By facing challenges and stepping into the unknown, you build resilience and learn lessons that stay with you for life. Embracing risk-taking helps you build a mindset of learning from mistakes and bouncing back even stronger. It cultivates a sense of self-belief as you discover your capacity to overcome obstacles and achieve your goals. When you get used to taking risks consistently, you also break free of certain limitations the mind has imposed on you. After a while, you stop judging yourself or your life on the basis of success or failure. You kind of become indifferent. You see life as a game where one cannot exist without the other, and you don't need a reward for succeeding at this game. The act of playing the game itself becomes a reward. Number 4, not having a rigid sense of self-identity. In the game world, NPCs are always assigned roles and occupations by the developers that they stick to. You have the bartender, the barmaid, the blacksmith, the banker, the peasants, the kings, and so on. Because they serve a purpose, they make the game world feel realistic and more lived in. They interact with the player character, tell their little anecdotes and stories, and sometimes even give you a quest. But their roles are set, don't forget that. The bartender will keep on being the bartender, the blacksmith will keep on being the blacksmith. As funny as this sounds, as humans, we are also programmed by society to think along the same lines and play the rules that have been set for you. So people spend their whole life searching for a meaning or a purpose that makes their living justified. They assign themselves roles to secure their place in the world, or they pick a path in life and stick to it, even if they're not sure if that's what they really want. As human beings, we can be so much more than that, right? You don't have just one thing you're good at, what you're passionate about, or gives you a reason to keep on living. You don't have to play a role just because you were raised to think that way. You don't need to have your life all figured out by the time you turn 18 or 20. It's super unrealistic anyway. People take the wrong steps in their early 20s because everyone around them gave them ideas for a better future. And what happens when they follow those ideas? They end up with a midlife crisis. You can't force interests on yourself, just like you can't love another person because you're supposed to, or somebody told you to do so. Having multiple interests and your purpose evolving or changing is normal at different stages of your life. Doing something that makes you happy now might not give you the same sense of satisfaction or accomplishment 1 year down the line. You don't have to beat yourself up for quitting something that you don't like. When I quit something now, which I don't like, I don't feel guilty about it like I used to back in the day. How I think of it now is like, I didn't waste time. I just figured out what I don't like by trying out different things. Throughout my life, I tried to succeed at many things. Competitive gaming, writing, affiliate marketing, video editing, starting a Facebook ad agency without learning how to run ads. And here I am today. Even though I failed at most of those aspirations, the culmination of experiences and wisdom that I gained from those failures led me to create these videos with my message that I hope will reach people someday. Number 5, question everything. To truly break free of societal conditioning, you have to get into the habit of doing the hardest thing. That is, asking the tough questions. Questions about your life, your society, your religion, your beliefs, your purpose, about everything. I remember this quote that goes like, don't ask questions if you're not prepared to hear the answer. What that means is that most of us are actually really afraid of finding out the truth about the world we live in, and most importantly, about ourselves. They ask questions and say they want an honest answer, but what they're hoping for is the honest answer to be something reassuring, the answer that aligns with their preconceived notions. That's the biggest mistake you could make if you're trying to avoid becoming an NPC. Honesty with yourself and with those around you comes with dire consequences, but it's something that'll keep you sane. In a world that seems to be getting insane every passing day, the reward for seeking truth triumphs over everything that you can possibly imagine. And it often comes in the form of an unshakable sense of self, clear knowledge of your desires, and confidence in your abilities. But to reap those rewards, you have to follow through what you started and see the process to the very end. In the end, I have to say it, in the end, you might realize that none of this shit makes sense to you and you'd be better off being a monk in the Himalayas, meditating till the end of time. I mean, that is a possibility. That's how following the process to the very end looks like. Your search for the truth will lead you to places that you cannot even imagine in your current state of mind. But this is a lifelong journey, so don't beat yourself up if you don't find any answers now. So that's my advice on how to stop being an NPC. What do you think? Do you agree with what I just said? Let's get a discussion going on in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for the algorithm. I appreciate you all for watching till the end. See you next time.